Mike Cunningham.
Here.
Marna Smith. Here. David Walker's absent. Soren Peterson. Chuck Schultz.
Here.
Cam Gonzalez.
Here.
And Marcy Husted here.
At this time, we will recess our regular meeting for a public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to explain and answer questions pertaining to the special assessment roll and to hear objections to the roll for the Great Oaks Drive Seasonal Road Maintenance Project.
Okay, so at this time, we've established what the cost is going to be for each parcel, and this is a 10-year project. It's going to be $185 a year, except in the first year, it's going to be $285 per resident. Is there anybody here from Great Oaks that has any comments or concerns?
I'm from Great Oaks, but I don't have any comments.
I know you don't.
Simple public hearing.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay, being that there's no comment from the public, and there's no more to discuss, we will go ahead and close the public hearing and go back to our regular meeting. Do we have any changes to our agenda?
No.
Okay, so I'll take a approve. Support. Been motion and approved to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Next is approval of the consent agenda. The regular board meeting minutes from August 16th, 2016, the treasurer's report revised, and the clerk's warrants and bills.
So moved.
Support. The motion and supported to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Next is communications, the fire run report from August 29th.
Move to approve and file.
Support.
It's been motioned to receive and file communications number 1, which is the fire run report from August 29th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Next is public remarks. It's the opportunity for anybody in the public to make any comments about the agenda or any township business.
Yeah, Don Pikes, Western George. I'd be happy to discuss it when we get to these items of new business and then opt-in, opt-out policy for using cell phone computers, if that could be explained. And this vacation time retroactively and allow carryovers. Talk about it now.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when it gets to the agenda, and we'll explain what's going on when we get there. Scott?
I know, we made some comments before, I think, when McFarland was here, made comments on this purchase of these phones, computers too also. And I just think it's a unnecessary expense. Another thing is, I see we did Fawcett Road, blacktopped it, I don't know why we didn't finish it, or at least chip seal it the rest of the way. Still is a problem, we don't seem to get many more repairs on this side, 23 is getting on that side. Other than the little patch job we got on Benton Road, I mean, that's a mess, I mean, that's going on there. I see so much activity on that side of the expressway, very little here on this side. How many feet off the road does telephone pole have to be from the curb? Is there a set, do you know there's a set, can you look into that for us? Because they just put a new telephone pole in and replaced, and it's on downside of the road. And it used to sit up by the fence, and they had a outsourced company come in today because it was stamped, and it's been stamped for a long time. But they finally got around to doing it. This thing can't be anymore, 3 or 4 feet off the curb. And I'm just afraid that, and the deer are always in there, and John can probably attest to that. I just know it's not gonna be long for someone saws it off. I mean, just off the road. I think it's too close to the road. But you can look at it, you can find out, Mike, how far they need to be back from at least from the side of the road. I think there should be a certain setback on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Any other public comments? Yes, sir.
Yes.
Could you state your name?
Yes, I acted on Ledgewood. I'm probably jumping the gun, but on your agenda for the shared driveway, are you going to address that later? or-
Yeah, we will talk about it. Any other comments?
Doug Houston, Ballford Drive, about the bids for the electrical work. When you get to that, I would like to make some comments.
Go ahead, you can go ahead and make them now.
The report, or the bids that you got for Heartland, in the remarks or down towards the bottom, the extra work, if there's code enforcement problems, to be added later. What is the hourly rate for that? What code enforcement is he looking for? The other thing is the size of the generator. Do you really need the 45 watt? Can you get by with the 25 watt? What's the difference between the Generac and the Cummings?
Okay, we'll talk about that when we get there. Thank you for your questions. All right, anybody else? Okay, since there's no more public comments, we'll move on to new business. Item number 1, resolution to confirm special assessment role for the Great Oaks Drive Seasonal Road Maintenance Special Assessment.
Okay, I'll make I'll resolve to confirm the special assessment role for the Great Oaks Drive Seasonal Road Maintenance Special Assessment District.
Support. It's been resolved and supported to confirm the special assessment role for the Great Oaks Drive Seasonal Road Maintenance Special Assessment District. Any further discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Cam Gonzalez?
Yes.
Marna Smith?
Yes.
Mike Cunningham?
Yes.
Chuck Schultz?
Yes.
Soren Peterson?
Yes.
David Walker absent, and Marcy Husted, yes.
That resolution passes. Next, item number 2, request of James Stando for approval of a shared private driveway off of Ledgewood Drive. Mr. Stando has gone before the Planning Commission to have a shared private drive off of his property. He has met all the conditions of our township board, and he has met all the conditions from the county drain commissioner, and there were none, I believe, from the road, no, was it the, but anyway, all the conditions have been met. There wasn't a necessity for one of them.
Oops.
So,
It was the drain commissioner's office didn't require, it was just a permit or something.
right,
Yeah.
right, so basically all the conditions have been met for this. And I guess we're looking for a motion to go ahead and approve
Move
his
to approve.
shared driveway. Support. Support. It's been motioned and supported to approve the request of James Stando for a shared private driveway off of Ledgewood Drive. Any further discussion?
I'd like to know what the considerations were that they was approved. At the original meeting, there was considerations that spoke to them addressed. You just mentioned that they were addressed. I don't know what they were.
I don't know the exact details of everything. All I have right here is the letter saying that all the conditions were met. Al, were you there at those meetings? Would you like to comment on them?
At the meeting on
Well,
One of the conditions was that there was a question about the size of a culvert going across the property.
Right.
And that condition was the one that I literally opposed until it was met, and apparently it has been met. The zoning administrator was involved in this quite heavily, so.
Can you give me the details on what the culvert were?
The culvert, I think, was, we wanted a 12-inch culvert, I know that. We wanted a 12-inch because and it was draining, there were 4 drains, 4 12-inch drains, I take it back, 4-inch drains draining into a 12-inch pipe or culvert, which wasn't enough to handle it, so they had to enlarge that to be able to accommodate the 4 lines coming in. And that was one of the biggest holdup.
Okay.
So, and I did not talk to Mr. Nicholson since then, so if we get the letter from Mr. Nicholson, then I must.
Actually, it came from Mark, so Mark made sure that, Mark's
He's
been
the
checking all this to
chairman,
make
so
sure
yes,
that all those have
all
been, all the
conditions
conditions have been met. So,
Else Mr. Meisel would not send us such a letter.
Is the drainage coming from the 700 feet back, or is it going to be blocked in some areas?
It's not going to be blocked at all. It's going to be drained the way it's supposed to be, a natural drain.
Okay, they said the 2 foot, there's supposed to be a 2 foot drain on each side of the proposed driveway.
A 2 foot hard
Cross-section.
surface put in, additional 2 foot hard surface to accommodate the two-way driving or somebody pulling over so that they could pass each other.
Right.
So that was met.
Okay, but some kind of drainage ditch that they said at the meeting was that they suggested be put on each side of the drive for the drainage.
Again, I have not been driven out to the property, so I cannot verify that physically myself, but I have to rely on Mr. Meisel, since he's the chairman, and all those would have to be approved by Mr. Meisel before we would get them. Yes, sir. I have not, I have not physically been out there myself. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the 12-inch drain, and that was what,
There were four lines coming into it, into this one 12-inch drain.
did they increase that?
They increased the size of the one drain, the accommodating drain, to be able to accommodate the rest of them, yes.
You know what they increased it to?
I do not, sir. But we request that it be increased to a size that would accommodate all of them.
They also requested engineering for the water drainage. Did
They requested an elevation in, drawing, an elevation engineered estimate, which we have, yes. And again, I'm relying on Mr. Meisel. Mr. Meisel is a very thorough person.
My understanding was it's 21 foot front from the rear to the road. And my concern was for the amount of flow coming off of that, coming into the road, and how it's.
That was that was the drain that was supposed to handle that, yes.
Okay, that ditch only goes down, estimate probably 100 feet, and it's still on a down slope. Stop right there. And all this additional water is gonna have to go back into the road there. And on that road, if the drainage at the end of Slipwood, that is constantly backed up with water.
We were supposed to alleviate that problem as well. We discussed that at the planning commission. I'm the liaison between the board and the planning commission, so that's why I know as much about it. But again, I have to rely on the professionalism of Mr. Meisel, because he is a very good person.
I talked to Ken Rector about it also, and I felt comfortable with what he has had to say about it, but I still don't know what that final consideration of what it really is.
May I recommend that you go and talk to Mr. Lando and ask him.
Can you call Ross to get further
He
information?
could probably explain it a lot better than I could here guesstimating rather than
the
reading it
drain
from the
commissioner's
horse's
office would be
mouth.
the one where he would get the further information, and he already spoke to the person that would,
Okay, well, then we can get that for him, yes.
it's Ken Recker, who's who he needs to speak to.
I can do
Already
that.
has.
You can
Yeah.
get additional information, Mr. Meisel and Mr. Lando, if you wish. If you leave us your email or your address, we'll certainly be sure that you get it, sir.
Okay, fine.
I just wanted to, I didn't want to talk behind your back. If you have any further issues with the drain, call the drain commission. I'm just saying in the future, I called Tyrone Township the other day, and he's come right out the next day. I mean, we're really good, so, I mean, if you ever have any drain issues, so, thanks, Mike.
I was very comfortable with Ken as well.
Yeah.
And I am not opposed to the drive
No.
whatsoever.
I know that.
I want to make sure more than anything else, if we don't end up with a special assessment you know, because of the drain issue.
Try to be proactive for any problems that might come up in the future. And, you know, it's always better to deal with problems up front more than it is after the fact.
And the proper forum to address these concerns going forward is at the planning commission when they're taking comment from the public. So if you have a concern, they can address it there before they recommend that the board approves it. So that's the proper forum to address those concerns. This is when they're coming up for application and they're in front of the planning commission.
Based on the communication here, it is under recommendation to be approved by the planning commission. They have met all requirements
Yeah.
that was put forth on them. That's what it's telling us in this paper.
So if there's something that you're aware of that's an anomaly that the planning commission's not privy to, that would be the appropriate time to bring it so they can make sure that they cross their Ts and dot their Is.
The problem is, I don't know what the final outcome is right now, and what they propose to do. There are some water issues currently there that the house that's directly across, right next to that drive, have water issues already. And fortunately, he couldn't make it here tonight. He wanted to and couldn't. But I don't know if there'd be any issues at all back there. It just helped if we knew exactly what their plan was and what they're going to do. What consideration taken, size of the drain. Like I say, they mentioned a 2-foot ditch on each side of the road. Whether that's in there or not.
Yeah, if you leave me your email address tonight, I'll send you over what we have on that.
That'd be great.
Okay,
That's fine.
perfect. Okay, so we have, we didn't vote on that, did we?
We did not vote.
It-
We did not
We
vote.
didn't
We had the
vote.
motion and the,
Motion and a
Second,
support,
okay.
yeah.
so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, that motion carries. Next is request to adopt an opt-in, opt-out policy for board use of cell phones, computers, and tablets. As you know, there has been discussion about this and recommendation from both of our legal counsels due to the Open Meetings Act that personal cell phones, personal computers, and laptops, if are used for any type of business, that they're FOIable and subpoenable. He recommended that we get township-issued cell phones, so I decided that we should create a policy that allows you to make that decision on whether you want to use your phone with the understanding that it would be FOIable, or elect the township to provide you a cell phone for township business. So, I think the policy is pretty straightforward. Which I just had here a second ago.
Yeah, here.
I can't bring it up.
Oh.
My links aren't working, so.
Okay.
So I'll just read it real quick. It says, in order to protect Tyrone Township and its elected officials' data and personal information, Tyrone Township will provide a township-issued cell phone, computer, or tablet for conducting Tyrone Township business for elected officials by electing to opt in. You may also choose to opt out. If you opt out, your personal cell phone, computer, or tablet can be FOIA requested or subpoenaed if you used it to conduct township business. And then there's 4 boxes there. It says, by selecting this box, I opt in for a township-provided cell phone. By selecting this box, I opt in for a township-provided computer, laptop, or tablet. The other 2 boxes are, by selecting this, I opt out of a cell phone, or I opt out for a computer, tablet, or laptop. So each one of us will be expected to either opt in or opt out and sign a date, and that'll be kept on file. Any comments or suggestions?
Just for clarifications by the attorneys, how hard did they stress on all levels that this was important?
Well, you were in the meeting, and he said it was extremely important. He said it can be, if you receive a phone call and somebody finds out about it, all your personal information's there. Doesn't matter what you've sent, if somebody has sent something to you, it's on your cell phone, and it can come out. So regardless, you're in a construction field, and, you're in a realty field, and those things can all be foilable. So I think that, you can go back on a phone, whether you've erased it or not. If it's ever came to you, it can be pulled up. And that was what Mr. Galuli said. He goes for, what is it? He said $1,000, he can find out everything that you've ever done on your cell phone. And he's represented cases where it's been quite embarrassing for not only townships and municipalities, but for elected officials. And as part of emergency management, we had to provide cell phone information.
Well, I think the policies, it gives the option, though.
Sure.
I mean,
Well, and also it tells you, if you
but
continue to
you
use your phone.
understand that if you use your
understand.
personal devices for work purposes, it can be foiable, so.
Correct.
Now, if the person wants to cancel out the cost by paying for it themselves, so it's not something the township burden? Or is the board member allowed to do that, or is this just you're in or out?
Oh, like the cost of it? We don't even have the actual.
We haven't even
quotes
really
yet.
got into any quotes, it's just a
Yeah.
policy to protect everybody, that's all it is. So if you don't want one, then
Okay.
shoot away. If you do, then that's fine too.
Something to look into. I mean, because I'm sure there are people that think that this is not a good township expense, but yet to protect yourself, it's a good way to stop any person that may say, this is an expense that the township doesn't need. I think it's a very small expense for the security that it provides for the person, but at the same time, it can take that argument out. Just take it right out of the picture. And that way, you don't have to give, say, a business phone up for a foiable thing, or fill in a blank. You can kill two birds with one stone, have that set up for just township business. I'm talking for somebody in my position.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want that to be a burden to the people.
Right.
Well, and
So-
the nice thing about it too is the phones nowadays are smartphones. You can get a phone and you can catch your township emails.
That's
On that
exactly
phone.
it, by default.
Right.
So it almost kind of makes the tablet, laptop obsolete. That would probably be for somebody like Marcy, myself, or Marta, would be working from home or something like that. But at this point, I really don't see a need for it. It's there, it can be removed from the policy. But also then again, it has to, the expense would have to be approved by the township board anyway, because a tablet or a laptop costs more than what we're allowed to spend anyway. So that expense would have to be approved, so.
Okay.
We would have to maybe check with legal counsel to find out if it would be appropriate for a township official to pay the bill, like you were saying.
Sure.
Even though it would be a township-owned phone, if you were paying the monthly cost, I don't know whether there would be any issues with that.
For like if you opt out?
No, like what
No,
I
if
think
you
what
want
you're
to
saying.
opt in, but yet, just because some people, now they're paying for
Oh,
phones. It's like one of those things, it's like, okay, well, you
Right.
can cancel that out, not even enter that argument.
yeah,
It's not about that.
okay.
It's about the legal line. We were advised that all of us should be doing this.
Right.
And if we feel, if it's a small enough, and if it's something that's not that big a deal, well, then, you know what,
Right.
I don't even want to have the argument.
To go to that, to go to that level. Okay.
Beyond that, is this going to be extended to other employees of the township?
I think it's the board
Just the
only.
elected
It was just the
officials.
township board.
Well, I was thinking like you have, not the building inspector, but the assessor and other people who might have need for.
Yeah, there was
conversation.
discussion about that when they're in
Are
the
they
field.
foilable?
Yeah. Like when they go out in the field to do stuff, it's not,
Well, I mean, we could, look at another avenue to do that, but this was, the agenda item right now is for us. If that's something we want to talk about at another meeting, we can do that too.
Right.
yeah.
I think it's a good idea to at least have this thing in place and have the choice one way or the other for one. But, I was just throwing that out there because I'm sure there's always going to be a naysayer somewhere in it, but from what the attorney was advising, and just so everybody knows, it can be a serious issue.
I can see, really, I've spoken about this before. We have no way to recover if somebody loses one. Who's going to pay for that?
Insurance.
We have to put some sort of framework to protect the township as far as that's concerned. Supposing somebody breaks it, who's going to pay for it, the repair or the replacement? We can't just jump into something and say, well, this is the way, this is what we want, this is what we want to do. If we want to do something, let's approach it the way we're supposed to. Let's look at it. To put some sort of structure so that we can come and say, okay.
Sure, we're not purchasing the phones at this point, we're just putting a policy.
I understand, but the policy should also include
The
structure.
uses, the do's and
The
don'ts.
responsibility to the
Yeah.
user. If there's going to be a user, then we have to have structure to recover, protect, and cover the expense. We also, at this point, we need to look into how much is each phone going to cost? How much are we going to spend? This is what I mean by structure. We have to have some sort of structure.
Sure, I understand structure, but this is just an opt-in, opt-out policy.
Okay.
I think if you talk about township equipment, there should be a policy for all township equipment, whether it's a computer, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's tools, anything.
But this is stuff that is going to be leaving the township with an employee. Township equipment stays within the township proper home.
Not necessarily, there's,
I don't know what else we can take out of here, so a tablet?
there's cameras, there's
Is
measuring
that tablet
tools, there's,
yours or belong to the township?
No, but I could take it out of here if I chose to.
Okay. Is there a structure for you to replace it if you lose it, to pay for it?
Not.
This is what I'm saying. We have to have some structure.
The do's and
Well,
don'ts.
that's-
Before we
sure.
can even choose to opt in or opt out, we should have something.
We just need to create a
To base it on.
policy.
there's no problem with creating a policy
Create a
for,
policy.
But are you wanting it to be as part, that it's part of this? I mean, this is very specific to the use, either you're going to use or not use.
that's a different
So it's like you need another
that we're
policy
talking
that's
about.
attached,
No, I think it should be included in that same thing.
included.
Should, the
Okay.
structure should be included. I mean, you either opt in, if you opt in, you should be made aware of what your responsibilities are to that laptop or that cell phone.
Like, this
If you
is an
use it-
acknowledgement.
Well, you
Yeah.
know what?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get, I'm not a legal person. I think, I'm a real estate agent, so I look at things, maybe a little different than most people, because this is what I do for a living. I have to find like you mentioned, a generator and generator.
I'm curious if we already have something in place, because like
I don't know,
the
does anybody know?
handbook, the handbook does for staff. I'm wondering if there already is a policy for, like you say, the equipment in the building.
Exactly.
And if it could reference that.
It could
What we
reference,
could do is establish a policy for usage of township equipment. We do that, we can amend this or change it to include within the guidelines of the township equipment usage policy,
you do that.
because I think they're two separate policies.
Well, but again, if you're saying, if you're opting in to take a piece of equipment out, we should have that on the same policy. If you're opting in, you're taking responsibility of that equipment.
Right.
And if you take responsibility of the equipment, if you lose it, or you destroy it, or you misuse it, then you're the responsible person of the township. I mean, it's only, makes sense. To me, it does, anyway.
Yeah.
Make a comment.
Sure.
In light of recent events in the presidential campaign, Cam has the concerns about the equipment. That's a minor issue.
I don't think $1,500 a pop is a minor
But
issue.
it's still, I mean, you're all responsible people.
I wouldn't buy
The
something
cost-
without insurance on it.
The cost of this is not the issue. The issue is certain access to phone records and emails. I think we need a little bit more work than just coming out with a policy. I want to know I don't. Procedures in the handling of township business are more important than an opt-in, opt-out policy. Your phone it stores the calls you make, but it doesn't store the conversation. Your computer may have an email that you have sent to the board, but you still got a server out there. Nobody has, not too many people have their own server, well, some. But there another alternative instead of providing equipment, if there is an objection to having that equipment. So if you get a call at home, hey, call me back on township cell. Is the NSA, are these things that are going to draw? Are we going to dig into the servers? But more that underlies this issue than just a lawyer saying, well, you should provide the equipment. I would want it. I was on the board.
But that's why there's an opt-out policy.
Well, but I never saw a need for it. I never had a need.
Right. Well, and
I think
that's
I
fine.
think that having you folks, certain folks that are on the road that need a cell phone, yeah, you should provide your cell phone. But as far as a trustee, if you have an email address here at the township, if you go to that server and access that email, having a tablet provided by the township isn't your duty. Isn't going to provide any privacy or transparency. So I'm suggesting you do a little bit more work on this rather than just having. Procedure is more important than the equipment. I think. But just saying policy, then if everybody's in, but how are you going to use it? Can you use it for personal use
Sure.
at all?
Right.
All right, I see a lot of hands going up. I need to clarify something. The purpose of this meeting is for the township board to conduct township business, and public comment has come. So at this time, we're not going to take any more comment from the public. There'll be another time for public remarks. We have some other things that we need to get to on the agenda. So, but Don, thank you for your comments. So do we have any other discussion on this, or what we would like to do?
I don't know if it's pertinent, but what if someone calls you on a personal phone and starts to discuss township business?
Well, tell them you'll call them right back. Say, I've got your number, I'll call you right back.
Okay.
And then when you talk to them, tell them not to use your personal home phone number anymore.
Okay.
I don't like the fact that it's come to this, but we have legislators in Lansing that have created this Openness Meeting Act, and it kind of left us out there. So, the way I see it is if I'm paying for my cell phone, that's my cell phone. If you need me to be on call 24 hours a day because I'm the chief elected officer and there's a disaster in the township, I should have a phone for that. Drain commissioner wants to talk to me about township business at 8 o'clock because he's been in seminars or he's been at a drain commissioner's office. I don't think that should be conducted on my personal cell phone. You go to work for a company and they provide you a cell phone for their business. And they have policies in place that if you violate or misuse that, then you will be written up or corrective action or be taken away or terminated or whatever the case may be, so.
Well, maybe we should table this for a
We don't even have to take a
future
motion on it.
meeting.
This was just brought up, this was
Okay.
recommended by both of our attorneys.
Right, I
That
understand
it's
that.
something that we must do. So,
Maybe we need to have a little more
Sure.
discussion and,
The guidelines.
I think we need to figure it out one way or the other.
Yeah.
Something needs to be figured out, because like you said, the technology gap, or,
Well,
and all this stuff, yeah, everybody should be on the.
I don't like that we have to
It doesn't
do this.
matter. You're right. You paid for it, it's yours. You are 100% right.
Right.
At the other set, this is something new. This has become other areas of issues with other municipalities. It's not very common, but it can be a problem. And like you said, that's your phone. You bought it with the intent of your use.
Sure.
You got elected, and now you're supposed to just spill all that out, and that's yours if it's ever requested.
Right.
I get it. And should you, I can understand where you're coming from, completely.
Sure.
But again, you know, there's got to be something, however, we come up with a process where it's through a server of communication, of email, or however it's done. Or hey, somebody ever wants, take our personal cell phones off the website, if that's how we got to do it, and put it through here. Then the secretaries can contact us and fill in the blank. Maybe it is a process, but at the same time, you know, you got a very valid point, much smaller corporations, a tenth of this size, provide many more people cell phones for communication, so they don't have to use their own for whatever reasons. It's a fact, they're out there. So we need to figure out what we have to do to maintain some sort of open view. Not disclosing each and everybody's personal.
Well, it's just, it seems like with all the changes in legislation, we've been attacking it
It's
like
new.
piece by piece, but maybe we should just do the whole package thing. Because you've got this opt-in, opt-out policy idea, but then we're talking about having the guidelines, so let's add the guidelines, but let's go ahead and look at the cost. We looked at cost once.
We did.
So let's just put the whole thing together. Let's get those costs out there again,
Well,
including this
wouldn't it
opt-in,
be re-
opt-out,
wouldn't it be
and
re-
then the guidelines. Give
wouldn't
the
it be
specific
redundant until we
guidelines.
adopt the policy?
You just do it all at once.
Back what, the policy, having this opt-in, opt-out? Actually, if you don't have a policy, I think just, unfortunately, I think that's actually more dangerous. If you don't have a policy of the communication of what we're trying to safeguard, then what's, again, yeah, what's the point?
Another aspect too is matter of openness to the public as a trustee or whatever. And also on the other side, your privacy and wishes not to be disturbed. So you got a fine line between public and private.
That's true.
and just because you access your email, your business email on a personal device, that's a secured website, right? Why would that open up your personal device to a FOIA request if you were accessing your business email? I don't know, I'm just
Well,
asking.
that's one of the things that the attorney said, even if you do that, once you sign on, you signed on. They can trace the device, and then it goes back to the device, and they want everything that's come off that device. And I can't believe we even have to have this discussion, but we do. And it's not only protectionism for us, it's protectionism for the township. You know, I don't know what's on your phone, you don't know what's on my phone, and I don't know what's on your phone, or has ever been on our phone. And we may have not even sent it. Somebody could have sent something that was, you know, not nice, and someone could have issue with it, and a subpoena can pull that right out. So. You know, or we have a policy that just refrains from, the only communication that we have is through this email, and that's it. I mean, we could do it one of two ways.
Well, that could be the possibility.
Yep.
Kill it all
All
altogether.
phone calls come to the township, and all emails come to the township, that's it.
Yeah.
Could do it that way. That way it's all in one spot. Nobody has to worry about it.
You had discussion on, that doesn't work though for the emergency management thing.
That's how it would have to work, because that's kind of what I'm hearing for the resistance. If that's how we want it, then that's how we want it. Or we have it the other way. I mean, we can talk about it and figure it out, but
But I thought we had to have some contact number
there has to be contact.
24/7, because we're over 10,000 people now.
We have
By statute, we have to.
Yeah,
period of
Only
time
one.
presented-
one, yeah.
Two.
We have over a period of time presented bits and pieces of this plan for the phone. May I suggest that we get something, as I go back to structure. Let's have something that we can all look at, so we know
Okay.
from pricing, from protection, from all the aspects that we possibly get together, and look at it again at a future meeting. I don't say that
I'll have
I'm
it
totally
prepared.
against it, I say,
I'll have it
let's
prepared for the next meeting.
get, pardon?
I'll have it prepared for the next meeting. We've got that mandate by the state for emergency that they need contact information, and I haven't given it to them. I'm not giving up my personal cell phone number for it.
Then I would say that we have to get some work done, because I don't see how to opt in or opt out, or to just write a blank, yeah, let's do it. It's not.
Well, it's not just let's do it, because all that stuff, all those expenses have to be approved.
Oh, yeah, they do. But once, it's like the,
So you want a protection policy?
It's like guidelines.
I want guidelines of protection.
equipment use.
Structure, I want structure. I want to know
Protection
what
policy.
we're doing with this thing, how much is it gonna cost us? What's it gonna cost the township? And Chuck, you're right.
We had
Much
that.
smaller corporations do, but much smaller corporations depend on profits. We don't operate on profits, we operate on our money. It's our money.
Understood, understood. That
So-
wasn't any innuendo to whether or not we're
It's-
for-profit or not for-profit. At the end of the day,
No,
we're still a
neither
business,
am I
and we
saying
still
that
spend a lot of money.
it's for profit or not for
Here's the
profit.
thing.
All I'm saying is.
If this
we
is
got our
opting out, I
corporation-
want the option to pay for it myself. That way, it ends that argument. I'll end it. I'll pay for it myself, if that's the case.
So include that as part of the,
Nobody's gonna look at me for costing the township more money. And if we have a way, a policy in place that we can communicate this,
You can opt out and
I
not
can,
have to
I can
bother
opt out
with it.
or opt in and pay for my own device
Right.
and usage. So whose expense is it at that point?
right.
Mine. I chose to do that for that reason. And now you just ended, you just ended the debate. Maybe not for you, but.
We'll get to it, we'll get to it.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? We want protection, pricing, legal question if you can pay for your own phone.
Sure.
What else do you want?
On that
Like
particular
the
question.
proper
Whether-
uses of the equipment,
We don't
Under
need,
like
the-
appropriate
that's-
uses or whatever. Is
That would be under the
protection?
protection
Appropriate uses, or,
policy.
yeah.
and pricing would include that we don't need two devices. We don't need a laptop and a phone. We need a phone or a laptop, one or the other.
Right.
This isn't spending double.
Here's the other, I got one other quick question on this crazy topic.
Listen,
How easy is it to make a mistake, to make it all worthless? That's just the point. If you make one mistake by access from another device, is this all pointless?
Yep.
So again, you're back to the procedure is also more important than the equipment, or as equally as important. So we have to make sure and establish that connection.
And should
You
there
can,
be,
hey, if you access at this point from now on, at whatever device you access it from now, it's over. All that protection you did is what it sounded like is futile.
That's where the individual responsibility of the usage
Exactly.
would fall in your own lap.
But that's part of the policy, part of making sure that policy, if somebody just opts in and,
You could have a policy all
You
you
have
want
to know
until
that-
somebody does that.
yeah.
Sure. All right, I'll put something else together. Not an issue. Anything else before we move on?
Yeah, one other thing is, nothing to disagree with Chuck, but there should be a uniformity among everybody being the same way. You can't have one paying and one not, and all kinds of other arrangements.
But at the same time, you can't force someone to pay for something that the township
Well,
is
then, is that
mandating.
taxable income too?
Well, that's easy for you guys to say that are part-time employees that have separate jobs. As you know, what we make here, under $35,000 a year, and that's pretty much our full-time job, If each one of us are paying a cell phone bill, I don't think we have extra money to pay for another cell phone bill, is what I'm trying to say. That's the reality of the
Always
situation.
debating that.
All right. Next item on the agenda is 4, bids for electrical work to the township hall. As you know, we had our building looked at, we had that study done, and there was a lot of issues, safety issues, OSHA compliant issues with our current electrical system, and that it needed to be updated. So what I did is I went out and put it out to bid, and we received 3 bids on the proposal. There are 2 companies that put in 2 bids and 1 company that put in 1. The difference is, on the 2 bids, is one is for a 25,000 watt generator, the other one is for a 45,000 watt generator. The 25,000 watt generator would operate heat or air and basic necessities.
Vitals.
The 45,000 watt generator would operate the whole township. So there's the differences in the cost.
So you mean,
Let me just
like,
say one
you
thing.
could operate, like, you could be here and conduct business to where the other one is gonna be limited?
No, we had
Limited,
the gentleman from Murphy out here this afternoon, and he actually did a load test on our electrical, and it's a 200 amp box, or I
200 amp service.
Right.
service, and we were drawing between 30 and 40 amps, and that was with the air conditioning running and whatever was
Computers
going on within the office. So we weren't even anywhere near 200 amps, so I don't know whether a 25, to me, it sounded like a 25 was probably sufficient, but I don't know that much about
Volts equals watts, right? Did he tell you how many kilowatts that equals out to, amps times?
no,
No.
no.
Volts equals
Well,
watts?
the
No.
service that comes in, it's a panel, it's 200 amps, and all these generators are rated at 200 amps to run the 200 amp panel. It's how many kilowatts are we using is the
That's the
question.
usage.
Okay.
Even
So that's
though
the
you're not going
usage.
over that.
So how many
Okay.
thousand watts are we going to use to
I'm
operate?
sure there's smarter people out here than me. I believe it's
Sure.
amps times volts equals how many watts you're using.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Well,
No idea.
and
Somebody's got a smartphone.
Yeah.
We could find out if we
Cliff
got,
knows.
is that what it is? So we can multiply that times 240 volts. Whatever he said we were using
Okay.
amperage-wise, times 240 volts, should give us a load calc of how many kilowatts we're using, kilowatts, 1,000 watt. So if it's a 25 kW, it's a 25,000 watt an hour production. that number comes up at or below that, the 25 KW would use it, but where's the township gonna go from here? If it's creeping right at that level, or maybe a little above is our max load, that means that potentially will not allow this township to run every single thing on that generator. So you would end up,
Sure. Well, and there's, you know, two thoughts of theory here. Do we want a backup generator? And I think we've had that discussion before. Do we want a minimal one, or do we want one that can operate everything? That's what we have to decide on what we want to do.
The purpose,
The
yeah.
purpose. Now, we have to get this building compliant, and that panel needs a lot of work. So the question too is this something that we want to do now, or do we want to wait till next year to do it?
well, if that, he said 60 amps, is what we were pulling,
He said between 30 and 40.
30 and 40 amps? Well, I was thinking I heard 60 for some reason.
Well, you know what? We have some bids here, and you can see where the bids lie and where the costs are. If it's something that we would like to do, we can have that company come out and tell us exactly what size generator we need.
Yep. Well, the other thing is, I believe it would pay for itself with the potential savings of a loss, like we had,
Right, with the
what
water.
was it, 3 years ago? We had a flood in here
That jacked
because
our
it froze.
insurance rates, too.
Floods, yeah.
We had two.
2 floods that year. Because of power outages.
Now, that could offset, the loss, the flood loss, could offset the cost of the township due to the, I'm assuming it was probably not that much, but the deductibles weren't that high, but then again, the premium should drop a little bit on the insurance. So the value added opposed to the cost of this thing, opposed to the cost of potential savings of outages that causes loss, and some premium drop, and what do we gain by having a standby generator just to have it? We have to have some sort of emergency service. Is this a point of an emergency location?
It is. It's
So
listed in
that's
our
another
township
thing to
as
throw in this.
emergency
If we're either-
contact.
If this is about going forward with this, if this is a emergency point for the township, it's another reason that it might be a good idea to have a standby generator.
You know, Tyrone Township has grown. Our last census, we're at 10,024. With Sun Communities and the build-outs, we're close to 12,000 residents. So, I mean,
But this is a place of an emergency location,
Sure.
correct? So, again, that's that's part of weighing whether we should or shouldn't. So, and then minimizing potential loss and expenses.
you know, if we have a bad ice storm, if we have high
Which has
damage
already
winds.
happened.
Yep, oh, we get them. A tornado.
Well,
Yeah.
we've just had where we've been sitting here at 11 in the morning, and it's a beautiful day, and the power goes out. And you gotta send everybody home, and you can't even make reason of why it's out, but if that could
Is that an
back
issue for
up.
lost production? I don't know this, I'm asking.
We're
a question.
paying
So
them
if the
if we
bigger
send them
one can
home.
continue running the facility and our staff can use the bathroom and use their computer and people can still come in and pay their taxes, that's beneficial to me in a sense that you don't have to shut the office down. I mean, now, obviously, if there's bad weather conditions, you probably need to close the office.
The other thing that I have question of is that panel. What are we gonna do with that? If
That's
we're
gonna be
put a
replaced.
generator on?
That's
Oh, yeah,
part
that's-
of the proposal.
That's,
That's
that
part
was
of this.
part of the OSHA issue. We actually
reason.
have an electrical panel over a desk, and that's a big no-no.
Nope.
So they're gonna move that panel, they're gonna put in a new panel, they're gonna get rid of all those piggybacks and make it compliant. It's gonna be fully inspected by the County of Livingston, and if anybody's done any electrical work, they know that Livingston County inspectors are,
They're a
By the
pain,
book.
they're a pain in the,
we won't go
South end
that
of
far.
the
They
horse.
are by the book,
No,
and if it's not by the book, they're not gonna
So-
give you a permit.
Just to stop right there, these prices aren't just for generators.
No.
It's actually for,
The
It's-
repairs.
it's taking that service panel,
Yeah.
Sure. Let me
Moving it
Making
into
it
this
up to date.
closet, yep, right.
What it is they're going to, the old main panel modifications, they're going to use J-box, EMT pipes up and over the panel to the new panel, drop ceiling work, electrical wiring and circuit extensions, install and label a new 200-watt, 60-space Cutler hammer panel. And our panel now is not labeled. They're going to install the Generac transfer switch, which is also a disconnect. We're supposed to have an electrical disconnect. We do not, so we're not compliant there. So that transfer switch will work as the disconnect. They'll do the meter modifications. They'll run the transfer to the main panel, a 200 amp ground rod system and cold water bonding, ground bridge installed, the generator installed, electrical from transfer to generator, the gas work. They're going to have to hook it up to the propane. They're going to install a cement pad. They're going to do all the permitting and the gas permitting. And there's a little thing there that says existing violations can be repaired at additional cost. That means outside of this scope of work, if there's some sort of something that they run into, and an inspector comes in and says, oh, by the way, in your back room here, there's a violation. In order to get a permit, that has to be, then they will give us a quote to repair that.
Can they give us a quote, like he said, can they provide an upfront?
Well, they don't
what
know
their
what it
hour,
is.
no, what an hourly rate is? You
We
know,
could
that's-
request that to
That's
I don't know
interesting.
if it's an hourly rate.
If you look on
based-
the
we can ask for
Allied,
it.
yeah, ask what an hour, just so you have an idea.
I mean,
this
is it an hourly
Allied-
rate of changing on a light switch, or is it an
noticed-
hourly rate of crawling up in the attic?
Yeah, on this
mean, it's gonna-
Allied quote, this caught my,
Same hourly.
Yeah, it's typically about $75 an hour, fill in the
One would
blankish.
think.
did you notice on the Allied quote at the bottom, because when you talked about the rates, it says all the above work is to be completed during the hours of normal business hours, Monday through Friday. And then it has this Service Contract Act wages, Davis-Bacon Act wages, permits, inspections are not included unless stated otherwise. I don't even understand what that is.
I think that's some sort of,
I
So
don't,
there's different, there could be different rates for work
well,
if we
that,
want them on the weekend and,
well, that's just on that one quote.
yeah.
well, can I interject one thing? The one thing I see on Heartland Electric's quote that's not on the other two is the fact they got everything broken down. Whether or not that's needed to do for certain contractors or not, but it's nice to see. Right now, apples to apples, you know, aside from some other equipment that is needed for the generators, difference of generators, we can see what the actual cost of repairs are and see what the actual cost of the generator and equipment is.
Right.
So we know that it's a difference of roughly $6,000 between the two generators. And we know the larger generator's about 19,000, we know the smaller generator's 13,600. So everything else is repairs that technically should be done anyway. That panel should move from its location. It's illegal as it stands right now. Those things kind of have to happen.
Well, in all fairness to Murphy, he did not have much time to get his bid in because we
It's
posted
not-
it, yeah, and,
It's not
you know,
necessary, but it's telling us what the
but I'm
difference.
sure that if we asked him to break it down, he does a lot of work for Fenton Township, and I'm sure that.
I was just
he can
using that as a
break-
point of reference.
No, I understand.
This shows us what needs to be done up here, even if we don't get a generator.
Right.
Right, well, and Heartland Electric, when they came out, they were extremely thorough in it. They've come highly recommended from other people that I know. A guy I know, a resident in our township, owns a large residential and commercial mechanical company, uses them all the time, so they're fantastic.
You know, you mentioned something on
And their pricing is right.
propane, the size of the propane tank. Did any of them mention we would need a bigger one? I know
No,
a
they
lot
didn't.
of.
That's a question that we're gonna have to ask the
Ask.
propane company.
You asked that the other day about the size.
Yeah, that
but-
was my concern is.
And they didn't
you know,
include
If we're gonna
anything.
include a generator, how much propane will it use? And let's say we have a power outage for a week, does our current propane tank be able to?
Like, how long will that
accommodate
run?
So
Yeah.
that's a question that we'll have to have with the propane company, but. So, this is a two-part question. Do we want to move forward on this? We've got the estimates, we put it out to bid, this is what's come back. Or is this something we want to wait on? I know we have an ocean compliance issue, we have an electrical panel that,
Well, do we have a deadline date that we have to have that panel?
we haven't been
Moved, or-
cited, but this is a proactive approach to,
Right.
hey, we had somebody, an engineer come in, look at our building, they gave us an assessment of it, and this
That was
is
a
one of the
priority.
major issues that surfaced. I think it's kind of our responsibility to take care of this township hall, and fix things, you know. That panel, who knows who's been in it and done what,
Well, it's been added on to, things have been jammed in it.
you know, and obviously not inspected.
And so with having the quote including the generator, there's probably a savings having it all done at the same time, because it's all this electrical work to hook it in. Because if you did the panel now and then decided next year to do the generator, you're just gonna be paying more money
I
to
think
then
that if we
connect
do,
everything.
if we do a motion, I want that motion to include what is hourly rate for additional work? And,
Are we talking Mr. Murphy or Heartland Electric?
well, right now, I think Heartland has the best bid. I think it's more detailed, like I said,
They're very
it's highly
detailed.
recommended, and they've got the best price.
There are some questions. I would want to know, for them to go through the building and give us an idea of what other violations we might have, that they would, you know, being professionals. I'm not a professional, you're not a professional.
Well, unless,
Sometimes when they open them up,
I think they.
That's when they find it.
That's
That's when
kind
they
of
find
why
it.
they
And
gave us the
we're not gonna
little
know until we open
exclamation.
it up.
Yeah.
And that
If
was
it's a matter of a GFI in the bathroom, they're not gonna charge us $350 to install a GFI, that's a $10 item. This is what I'm getting at.
well, that's.
These things happen, that's why.
That's what I said. If we have a motion, I would like it to clarify what the hourly rate is,
For additional work.
exactly what size generator we need. Any other concerns?
Well,
All right.
I would also like to say that this, Mr. Murphy lives in the township. He lives right here on Carroll Lane. So I think that's kind of, I would like to give him some consideration. And my thought was, why don't we narrow it down to two? Because I think the one is probably not one we're going to go with anyway. The other two are fairly close. And have a meeting and have those two come back, so we can address all of our questions to them and give them the opportunity. Right.
Well,
It's a good idea.
well, we've already accepted the bids.
We have accepted the bids?
Yeah, we put a bid out and they're in. So,
We haven't
We haven't
accepted.
selected-
we
We
haven't
haven't-
accepted them, but
We have
we have closed our
reviewed the
bidding.
bids.
We've closed the
just
bidding process. We just want to
The only thing
ask
you
more
don't know
questions about it.
is what apples to apples are. You just have a bottom line on one and everything spelled out on the
I'll tell you
other.
what, why don't we do this? Why don't we figure out what questions we want to ask? I'll call them and I'll get answers from both of them, and then we'll talk about it at our next meeting and go from there.
May I make a suggestion, sir?
Sure.
We have a quite good itemized from Heartland. Why not propose this to Mr. Murphy? And, I mean,
You don't
it's
pit one
comparing
against the
apples to
other.
apples, is that?
You really don't wanna do
unethical?
that.
I mean,
We've already did the bid.
okay.
He had same amount of notice and time.
Well,
Well,
not really.
Well, not really, but I mean, he had time to do it, you know, and he didn't.
The best thing we could do, if we're
And I
gonna,
understand he
if
lives in
we're
the
gonna
township,
poke
but
around
he's
with
not the
questions,
lowest, he's not the lowest
is
bidder.
ask him to break down the facets of the job. And if he asks, can you explain, go, look, we have, what's the panel replacement gonna cost? What's the switching gonna cost? We wanna know where we're at with the generator. Are they two different brands? You know,
Right, wait, see,
One
it doesn't
they,
have the
So you want an
brand.
itemized bid from the one,
we've got it from the other, if we're gonna even
Brand.
do that.
No,
I
they
mean, a
both
lot
have
of times,
Generac.
once you get your bids, you get your bids, and you have to make your decision.
What is Jim?
You know, going back and forth and pitting one against the other and everything else, that just gets ugly, and then you get people not ever wanting to quote things for the township.
Right.
well,
Yeah,
it's
so-
not professional.
Right,
No,
that's the point.
I fully appreciate that. By the same token, as I mentioned before, this is our money
Right.
talking about, so that's why I tend to be a little bit more hesitant to spend it, because it's coming out of my pocket. So,
So we just want to clarify to what they bid.
I'm all for getting the generator, and
Itemize
everything
their
at
list,
once.
pretty much. If they can itemize their estimate, so we can compare apples to apples, if we're gonna ask of anything.
If Mr.
Don't
Murphy
give
wants to
anything
do
else
that, by
as-
all means. We didn't get an itemized from Mr. Murphy.
So we want an itemized bid from Mr. Murphy. Anything else?
The hourly rate, exact size of generator required.
No, we haven't made a decision to get a generator or not, correct?
We have not.
So,
No.
here's the other option. What's it gonna take for us if we wanna bite this off and just do all the work and have it prepped? Have the disconnect switching and everything else like that, and
Oh, there
maybe
you
plan
go.
for the next year on a next budget to just install the generator, because all the infrastructure would be there.
Gotcha.
That isn't also an option. So, let's just say we decide, oh, looking at the budget,
All right, my question is, once you have somebody come out, set up, do a job, does it cost additional to have them come back out and start another one?
bad.
Yeah.
I think your labor costs are gonna go up a little bit
Well,
there.
part of it is the infrastructure to connect the generator. Once you set the transfer switch, and you can have the transfer switch and everything in place with no generator. You don't need a
Yeah.
generator right now.
That's true.
Yeah.
But if we did opt to just make the repairs, we should make the repairs with the switching involved.
One of the things that, we're being proactive in this is that we don't want to be in a position that we need a generator and don't have it.
Right.
We've been there already.
Yep. and I-
Yeah.
So we're not gonna ask,
For getting the generator at this time.
right,
Just
Get the
split up
whole
the bid.
package done and
right.
it's done with.
Well,
Buys
so
it.
we want an itemized bid. There is, the prices are locked, that's what they are.
Yep.
The hourly rate for additional work,
Yes.
and what is the exact size of the generator. I will call them first thing in the morning and get that.
Okay.
Then we'll,
Wonderful.
Got a time
And
frame
let's-
on them, for how long we're gonna have it? It'll be done in 60, 90 days or
Oh,
whatever?
like a time frame to get the project on? Oh.
If accepted within so much time, what kind of timeline is it? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Seen some of these jobs drag out.
both these guys are pretty well-known guys. I don't think they're gonna start a project and mess around.
And so we need to call the propane company on the propane
I can call the
size?
propane company.
All right.
Well, we have to decide that we're gonna do the generator before I call the propane
Right.
company. So, all right, then we're not gonna make no, so we'll move on to the next item.
Still in the works.
Item number 5, request to purchase 4 tablets to use in the election polling places.
And what this is, there's a greeting application that you can put on a tablet, and the Bureau of Education has done some testing and on a specific tablet, and what it does is, if you have people standing in lines at the polls, it's going to be, when you get closer to the end of the day, you want to make sure they're in the right precinct. You can go down the line and you can type in their address, and you can let them know if they're in precinct 1, 2, 3, or 4. If they don't show up in that list, they're not registered in Tyrone Township, and they'll have to come here, or we'll have to call here. I talked with my election coordinator a little more today, and I don't want to go with 4 of them. I think that having 4 of them is, because they're limited in what we can use them for, because I don't want to have 4 tablets that get put in the vault for 2 years and not used again. So my suggestion is that we get 2 and use 1 in precincts 1 and 2 over at the Tyrone Covenant Church, just share it between the 2. We don't need 1 here because we have the office here, and then 1 for the Nazarene Church. And my thinking is that if we had 2 of them, when we're not doing an election, I could use 1 of them for board meetings, and potentially Ross could use 1 in zoning. I'm not sure if he would have a need for one, but so that they're not just sitting and not getting used. They're roughly $110 for each one, and, but I think rather than doing the 4, I think 2, and then see how it works. Because what we don't want is at 8 o'clock when we have all these people standing in line and they get up to vote and we say, oh, sorry, you were supposed to be in precinct 4, you're in 1, now you can't vote. So that's what we want to try. It does happen. and
So how user-friendly are they?
It's going to be an inspector that's going to use it. It's an app that you
Inspectors
put
are
on.
okay.
And I can show you
Gotcha.
what it looks like. So what you'll do, it'll come up like this. You'll be able to select all of the precincts. You'll type in the first part of somebody's last name, and then a list will come up. You'll select whoever it is that you're looking for, click on them. Actually, you don't even have to do that. You can see right here, it tells you if it's precinct 2 or precinct 4. And then you can let them know they're in the wrong line. You still have time to get to the correct polling location. So that would help to allow people to be able to
So how much
vote.
time is saved by doing it this way as opposed to doing it manually?
Well, there is no manual way to do it, other than they get up to
Once
vote.
if there happens to be a long line, and the line's out the door, and the polling, say it's, what is the polls end?
Oh, I
7 or
understand
8? 8 o'clock, and so if they're in line, they get up there, and it's 8:30, they've already been in line, and they find out, but they've been in line since 7:30. They get up there to register to vote,
And they're
or
in the
not to
wrong
register,
precinct.
but to check in to vote, find out, oops, you're in the wrong.
Right. And that's what the
Now
idea
they're screwed, they
is,
can't
try to
vote.
get these
It's
people.
not a matter of time, it's a matter of
It's a service.
disenfranchising voters, literally, is what you're doing. And to coin a term, if I may, when you take a vote that's been in line all this time, now by the time that we tell them, well, you can't vote here, you gotta go over there, or you gotta go over there, then that poll is closed and they can't vote.
Right, so if we
So
can do it before it
it's-
gets too late, we can give them enough time to get to the correct
Right.
polling location.
So it's just an added service at an election.
It
It's a
is.
cheap fix, believe me.
And our thinking
There's
was,
such a thing.
we don't need one here because we have people in the office who can go down the line and check.
That cheap fix is why we have an electrical panel like that.
No. No, this is something, what we're talking.
Sure, I understand, yeah. You make your motion then.
I think that's a very good idea that Marcy has, and I would definitely,
I'll make a motion for the 2, purchase of 2 for the election.
support.
Been motioned and supported to purchase 2 tablets for the election polling places. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Next is request to adjust the vacation time retroactively based on new vacation policy and allow carryover.
Okay. So we had a board meeting, I think it was in July, and we voted to update our vacation policy so that vacation is now being calculated based on date of hire instead of based on the fiscal year. And we all approved that. And then upon me doing some calculations to see how that affected everybody, I found out that we inadvertently changed the number of years that it took to get to the next level of vacation time. And I don't think that was what our intent was. That wasn't the intent of the employee focus group. All they wanted was for us to change the calculation to be based on date of hire. And then when we did some rewording to make the policy more clear, we ended up moving them up to the next level much sooner than they should have been moved up. So what?
The old policy.
Yeah.
Right. So my proposal is that we changed the policy in the employee handbook back to calculate vacation time, so that the first year they would get no vacation, the beginning of years 2 through 4, which would be the next 3 years, they would get a week, and then the beginning of years 4 through 8, which is the next 7 years, they would get 10 8-hour days, and then the beginning of years 9 through 15, they would get 15 8-hour days, and then beginning of year 16 and each subsequent year, they would get 20 8-hour days, which is basically what the handbook stated before, but just not in the clearest of language. And I think when we were trying to make it more clear, we ended up
Changing those numbers.
we changed the numbers. And so I've had discussions, our accountant had given us a spreadsheet, and it showed how minimal the effect was going to be. And then when I started doing the calculations, I'm like, oh my gosh, what happened? And then I realized that it's because we changed, she didn't do anything wrong. We changed the handbook so that all they got bumped up much sooner than what.
Was the handbook changed to be retroactive to the hiring date of these people? Or was it effective from the day that we changed?
No,
See,
we
that's
had to, it was not an easy thing just to say, okay, like as of July 1st or as of August 1st, this is what it's going to be going forward, because we have all these people with different hire dates. So to make it fair, so that they all got the next step at the same time, we went back, well, there's only 4 employees who even have vacation time. It's
We're
not.
going back 6 or 7 years on this thing.
Well, that's
And that's-
the way we approved to rewrite the book with the numbers.
No,
That wasn't the
we voted
intention.
to change that to the hiring date, not to retroactively to go back to year 1.
Right.
But we had to have a starting point,
Year
and,
1 is the starting point.
yeah, but year 1 for Terry is 2006. Year 1 for Marion is,
But that is
you see what
not-
I'm
See,
saying?
that's why it should be from the day that it's approved forward, not from year 1. We didn't change the book on year 1, we changed the book in July of 2016.
The current year.
That's the current year, that's what's affected, not from year 1. That, year 1 is past, it's gone, we're past beyond that. We changed this in July of 2016. Does not affect year 1 through year 15, or through July of year 16. You can't do that. Because other than that,
Well-
we owe people from,
But when you think
it
about
can't be
it,
that way.
we have somebody who's getting ready to get vacation in the next week. And then we have people whose anniversary date has already passed.
That's all fine, but I don't see where, again, I don't see going back to year 1 to make something that didn't exist in year 1 be legal in year 1. It can't be.
And the focus group, that wasn't there when we talked about it. They weren't, that's not what they wanted either.
No,
They just wanted to be effective as an anniversary date. And I
That's
think we
all-
were all
and that's
talking
all
about
it
the
was.
current year.
Is
It
making
was
this correction
effective
satisfy
July
everybody?
of 2016, not July of 20.
Just making this correction
Election will
satisfy
be
everybody.
I don't know how we came up with the numbers where it was 2 through 3. But when you look at the old handbook, when it was by the fiscal year, the wording was April 1st following year through March 31st for 3 years. Well, that would be the 2 to 4, is what that line will equal to get the 5 8-hour days. And then the next line was April 1st to March 31 for the next 4 years, you get 10 8-hour days. So we're saying the beginning of years 5 through 8. But somehow we transposed or messed up the numbers and put years 4 through 6. So what she's proposing on saying the beginning of your years by your anniversary date of years 2 through 4 would be 5 8-hour days. And it reflects what we used to have, and then saying we approved it to start July 2016, it minimally affects a few of the
It will only
employees.
affect people from July of 2016 forward, not July 16th back to year one.
Of their anniversary date when
You
they
know,
start
It just
work.
does not work that way.
Right.
Law does not work that way. I can't, unless we specifically made it retroactive, we can't do that.
No, it was very minimal anyway, and really, there's one that's going to get her time on September 17th,
Yeah.
and she got part of it April 1st, and now September 17th, she starts her 5th year, so now she's eligible for 80 hours, so she's going to get
Again,
the
so we
other.
go back and we can't do that.
No, but she's going forward. She's a September
Forward, I have no
hire
problem.
date.
Backward, I have a problem.
Okay.
Big problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. But if we can approve so that the language is saying beginning of years 2 through 4 is 5 8-hour days. We had it for years 2 and 3, and that's not correct. Because this reflects what we passed in July 2016, and then you're crossing out and showing the
Yes.
corrections to reflect what we originally had in the handbook, but to say it's by their anniversary date.
Did you have a motion for this?
Well, I make a motion to change the vacation policy based on date of hire to, do you want me to say the whole thing? 5 8-hour days for beginning of years 2 through 4, 10 8-hour days for the beginning of years 5 through 8, and 15 8-hour days for the beginning of years 9 through 15, and 20 8-hour days for the beginning of year 16 and each subsequent year.
I would support that.
Do you have that, Terry?
She's got it.
Okay.
Is that right?
Without restating the motion. It's been motioned and seconded.
There's no disputes between anybody with making this correction, right? Everybody's on the same page?
Everybody's on the same
No
page.
more?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. 1 nay. Next item on the agenda is proposed road improvement resident survey. We've had people talk about road millages, and we actually had a resident call. We talked about it at a previous board meeting, and the board said, well, why don't you put a survey together to see if this is something that we want to do. So I looked at some different surveys that were out there by different municipalities and kind of just came up with one. Couple easy questions. Actually, why don't you pull that up there so
I don't
it
know
can
if
go
I
up on the screen
can.
so everybody can see what we're
I don't
talking about.
think I can. My links aren't working unless I can find it.
You're gonna make me read this, aren't you?
Unless it's in your email, like a board packet thing, no?
Well, yeah, it would be in the board packet.
Your linked agenda's not working. I could probably read it by the time you get it. So basically, it says, this survey was created to see if residents of Tyrone Township would like to improve their roads. Note that if a millage were passed, all the money would go to roads and roads only. First question is, are you registered to vote, yes or no? 2, are you likely to vote in a primary elections? Not at all likely, somewhat likely, Most likely, I do not vote in primary elections. Number 3, are you likely to vote in the general elections? Not at all likely, somewhat likely, most likely, I do not vote in general elections. That needs to be changed because it said primary again. So I'll fix it. Number 4, is road improvement and maintenance a priority of yours? Little or no priority, somewhat a priority, a high priority. Number 5, would you support a millage increase to improve roads in Tyrone Township? Would not support, somewhat support, favorably support. Scope of work is yet to be determined, so no figures or millage amounts are available. A tax of 1 mil means $1 per thousand taxable value. Question number 6, so in general, would you support a millage increase for road improvements over 10 years? 1 mil to 2 mils, 3 mils to 4 mils, would not support. Question number 7 says, if you would like to take part by being on a subcommittee for road improvement, please email Tyrone Township Supervisor Mike Cunningham. And there's a section for comments. So I think it pretty short to the point. And I looked at a lot of surveys and they ask, are you happy with your township board? And we've done that before, and I don't think it's necessary. This is something that we can put out.
To get more mileage out of this, can we include garbage collection? Township-wide?
We've addressed that issue.
Yeah, I know we also addressed this issue before. We addressed this issue several times.
Well, when you start asking for a millage for something, you don't start tacking other things on it. It has a tendency to get shot down.
To the point.
So, there are a lot of people that want to see the roads improved. So we're gonna ask them.
Well, along with the roads come the garbage trucks that travel on these said roads, which destroy said roads.
We've had this discussion at the board table before.
I
Kim,
agree.
And I'm a little,
I agree, and I'm on the road commission, so I know exactly what,
you keep bringing it up and that we keep having the same answer on it.
I know,
So, I would like the discussion to remain on roads.
so be it. I yield.
What do you guys think of it? Does it need to be modified? Would you like to add to it? We can put this out through email, we can put it on our township website, we can also do a Survey Monkey thing. It's very cheap, $49 if that. And I think they even have a free one that we can do.
We can put them in the tax bills too. Tax bills are coming up in December, it's cheaper yet.
We could do that too. Either way, there's a lot of avenues, I just want to know, are you fine with the content of the survey? And what would you like them to do with it?
It could be improved, I think, but yeah, I like to work on it and see if we can come up with some different suggestions to be more.
What would you like improved on it? Generic statement. Is it the language? Is there
I
another
think, like,
question?
Even though it's a survey, is there any way to find out if there are multiple people filling out a survey several times, or?
Even if the survey stays the same, we don't change the wording on it, with a few corrections which you've made. If we put it in the tax bills, everybody will get it, including the vacant property owners, which should also have a say in this. Whether they want it or not, they're going to be taxed on it, so they should definitely have a say in it. So it would be beneficial to include them. That's why, again, I have reasons for recommending the mail and the text instead of a Survey Monkey. I think that would be a definite plus for it.
Would you like to see it in tax and then Survey Monkey?
I'd rather see a tax insert
I'm fine with that.
than a Survey Monkey.
We've done that before, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we've had great success, but we've had some success, and it was enough to get a statistical analysis to determine whether we should do something.
There's one other thing you might do is include a request for suggestions of which roads they'd like to see done.
Well,
That
everybody's gonna want the-
Yeah, that would be a next step. So if we get enough people that say, hey, this is something that I want to do, then I think our next step would be setting up a subcommittee and different committees within that to identify, regions, divide the township up into 6 sections and have a few people say, these are the roads that need to be done, this is what we'd like to see in our area. And then come back and then prioritize those. After we prioritize them, then we send them over to the road commission and said, hey, these are the roads that we would like to do, and this is what we'd like to do on them, what's it gonna cost? And then we can figure out what it's gonna cost and figure out over 10 years what this would cost as a millage rate, or if we wanted to look at bonding it out, what it would cost, and then put a proposed millage rate, and then do another survey to see what kind of response that we get, and, put it on a ballot. So, yeah, that would be a further step, but, I think the survey intent is just to see, are we gonna get enough bites? And if we do, then we take the next step. If we don't, then we're done.
Well, the education to this, it isn't the township's responsibility, but if the township wants the township, if the residents want the township to do something, it's a tremendous cash flow undertaking to do it. And it's not the township's responsibility to fix the roads financially, but there's nothing happening on the county level either.
There were over 150 road improvement millages on the August 2nd primary ballot. You know how many did not pass? 6. I was shocked. I would probably believe that 6 passed and 140 statewide. Yeah. I was shocked at those statistics. But Green Oak has recently done it, and they've had great success with the program. Heartland just did it, and they're improving their roads and have had great success and feedback. I'm middle of the road on it. If the residents want to do it, then we owe it to them to look into it. If they don't want to do it, then we hold our peace.
Definitely think the survey's a good idea.
And this is just to figure out if
For
we're gonna
sure.
put it on a ballot. And then that's the true vote from the residents, is when you have it
Well,
on a
I
ballot.
think, it's just to determine if it's something that we're gonna
Gotta
look into.
explore it too, and
And I
then-
think there's still a lot of things that would happen, including another survey, public education, and things and public hearings to even determine if it would be on a ballot yet. But I'm want to take the first step to say, I've had enough phone calls, I've had enough communication. There's a couple of people in our audience here that have mentioned that they want roads improved, and we're going to find out just how serious they are. And if they're not that serious, then that's fine with me. If they are, that's fine with me too. And I think this survey is a start for it. So if there's any additions or comments that you would like to add to the survey, do it now, and I'll make those changes. Otherwise, we'll...
Well, a suggestion I would make is the part where you have the 1 mil means $1 per 1,000 per taxable value. A lot of times, like on a survey, it'll give an example. If you have a $50,000 taxable value, it would equal this amount. Like, it gives an actual dollar
Sure,
amount.
we can do that.
That just is like, here's an example if your taxable value is. This is what the cost would be.
Maybe they would support less than a mill too.
It's there 10 years.
Maybe they would support something under 1 mil.
Oh, you have
1 mil
more-
the benchmark to start with.
Well,
mil
you start getting
too.
under 1 mil, you're only covering dust control.
Yeah,
You might
that's
also
true.
include something to show them how much money would be generated by the creation of 1 mill. It might cover the township. I don't know, how much does 1 mill generate?
Right.
1 mil a year
By
generates...
our tax, how much taxable value
was
we
about
have.
600,000
Because
a year.
our public safety is 570, 590?
I think it's somewhere around $650,000 a year range, 1
Yeah.
mil. So over 10 years, it's, a substantial amount of money. About 6 miles of road paving.
So it doesn't take you very many miles though,
Doesn't.
of paving.
That's for 1 year.
That's over 10
If you're going
years.
for a 10-year bond,
So then you go 2 mils and then you double that. Yeah, but right now, I just want to find out if we have interest. So yeah, we can put that example in there. Is there anything else?
I think Soren is onto something. I would like to see, would you vote for a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, or 10-year assessment mill to fix our roads?
That are never
I think
ending.
the time may have an influence on what kind of response we get.
If
And
you
again,
do-
I'm
if
all
you
for
do-
fixing the
Yeah,
roads.
If you do it, I understand what you're saying. If you do a 2-year millage, it's not going to be worth the time.
How about a 10-year?
That's what it's in there. It's a 10-year. And
I
the
didn't
question
see
is-
that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it says, would you, question number 6, I'll repeat again. So in general, would you support a millage increase for road improvement over 10 years?
It's
And that's what most of them are anyway. It's
a ton
pretty
of money.
consistent. There's been a lot of research, there's been a
People
lot of
paid
surveys, there's been a
Tyrone
lot
Township
of,
for that.
a lot of votes for that. Yeah, I mean, we
It
could
could
we
get
could
something
definitely
done.
kick the can down the road and improve the quality of our roads drastically if we get a few mills on that over 10 years. Or they may say no, and that's fine too.
Whatever again, I serve them, you know.
Well,
like you
that's
do.
what this is. Tell us what you want to do, and that's what we're going to do.
I agree.
Any other comments? Yeah, I don't even think I really need a motion to put that out. We just, actually just do it anyways. So I'll make a motion that we accept the survey with the changes and mail it out with the tax bill.
Support.
It's been motioned and supported to accept the survey with the amended changes and send out the tax bill. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? That motion carries. So the next item on the agenda is public remarks. Any other? Yes, go ahead, Scott.
All right, getting back to this, no personal things, we were all shaking my head. Money is not the number one issue, sorry, Charles. Our politicians, their lawyers, are working very hard to cover their asses. And we as people on the streets know better. They want to set it up so they can use their personal phones, and have another one, so they don't have to trouble with one phone. We're not stupid. We're not stupid. You know, that if anybody's out there doing the backyard, it's not anything illegal. You know? I mean, it's not, it's just, it's crazy. The money's secondary. Getting back to the road improvements is fine. With this tablet thing, we just sent out, at the cost of what did we pay to put new registration cards on? So everybody would know where their polling places are. And that was an expense for the township. So we need tablets to tell them, I mean, I just got my new card. But that's stupid, and they, because they don't vote, I'm sorry. That was your option, you said, we're gonna do this, to make sure people get to the right place. Vacation time, I think that was great, you did the right thing, Marcy.
Thank you.
This proposed road improvement, I agree it can to a certain extent. If we're gonna go through all this, get the people to spend the money, we need to get some safeguards in to protect our roads. Set up, and we need definite enforcement on this truck routes. I mean, there's roads out here that we can get paid, that are connected, Clyde Road's getting all redone down here. Livingston County should put that could be a main truck route. But there's a lot of roads we can get these trucks off of. I mean, maybe a lot of people don't agree with one garbage company, but I'm retired. I mean, I do work a little bit here and there. But there's a million trucks come by my house every week. The same company, why they go by 100 times, I don't know. It's pavement. They want to get out that rough road. So they're beating the hell out of the good road. But that's a suggestion. No personal things. But it's CYA, you know, the taxpayers know what CYA is. Don't need another phone. My objective is, if you're gonna do something wrong, shame on you,
Correct.
and you should be turning over your crap. If you got the government after you, the FBI and everybody, I'm for everybody. I'm not one party person, and I've seen it going all the way down the line. It's not just one. It's been a bunch of them. And I'm fed up with all of it. You know what? They all should be turning over their stuff, because I'm tired of it. And if you're gonna be a public official, your feet's in the fire, all of them. I don't care if you got an R, an I, a D behind you, you're all working for me.
Don?
You say an emergency plan, emergency contacts?
Yes.
So it's-
Yeah, it's a new thing that came out from the state. We have a new emergency manager in the township. So once you hit the 10,000 mark threshold, you have to have a full-blown emergency plan.
So you're probably working on that.
It's almost done.
Is there a contact for that? Who's the contact?
That's
I am.
Get
Cromanti.
yourself a phone that's paid for by the township. Like that. So, and there should be a backup, and give that to
Yeah.
us, and if you're gone.
Right.
So, that's easy. But I don't know if, I think your policy, that's not a policy, that's just what that is. A policy is really, here's how we're gonna conduct ourselves, and here's how we're gonna. So, I don't know if you need to have else. I mean, there's secure server sites that we as documents for quotation. Everybody can go to that and conduct their business. I think, just give everybody a township.
I've done that.
And if you can access that from a computer, but you don't bring it onto your computer, that's one way to do it. I have a couple different phones, but it doesn't work, really. I never got any calls when I was in trust. But get yourself a phone for this emergency contact stuff. Get two of them, okay? That's pretty easy to do. You don't even have to talk about it. The electrical issue, was there a scope of work developed for that? Who developed the scope of work?
Analysis thing?
I actually had called for an estimate, and then I created a scope of work for it.
So an electrician made some
Well,
recommendations?
electrician came out, and I said, these are the issues that we have from our analysis of the building. We have,
Who did the analysis?
what's the name of the company?
Natura.
Out of Grand Rapids.
So they didn't develop a scope of work for the electrical work that needed to be?
No, they told us what the problems were. So
No.
having been here long enough, I kind of knew what the other problems were.
I get that, but
So-
I redid a place, I had to replace all the receptacles to bring it up. So if you start touching this place, how are you gonna come in and say, you gotta do all of that?
They may.
Might.
Well, we should do that before we, I mean, you put out a bid, I understand that. But, I mean, there might be a lot more that's involved.
Yeah,
That's where a
and we
scope of
don't, and we don't know until we get into there.
You do know, call the county up and have an inspection, and talk it over with the county. They're the ones who are gonna inspect it. You might as well know what they're gonna tell us.
Have to meet
'Cause you
their
don't have to go back in
expectations.
and do it on an hourly rate.
Yeah.
Because you have to, all new plugs in the house, you have to put both plugs in at the same time, they're hard to plug in. That's just so it can't stick. So there may be other things. And I see no harm in discussing bids. It happens to us all the time. We submit a price, and we get asked for a piece cost breakdown always after the fact. So discussing bids after you've accepted them and bringing in the contractor, that's not an issue. That's not favoring anybody. Yes, we should have a generator here. I don't know what it is. Well, I've got way more than 200 amps in my house. And I've got a generator, and I think it's like a 25. A couple drop-off breakers on 2 air conditioners.
Right.
Different panel, right?
Well, I've got 3 panels.
Panel for your 25K.
Yeah, it's a disconnect. One's the whole house, but I drop out a couple AC units. Be careful of the gas. You should see the
Yeah.
gas meter I have. Huge, because you take the whole load of the house, everything running at one time. All 3 furnaces, the stove,
And the generator.
3 water hydrants.
Right.
That's why I brought up the idea about the propane tank.
No, this is like in one day it might be used
And it
up.
tells you, it'll tell you the load and how much you're gonna use and so on and so forth.
That's what the generator person will tell you.
Right, right. And then you submit that to the gas company. But, so, scope of work, just want to make sure we get everything. If we need, yes, the township should have. But, you gotta know, a 200 amp panel, that's all we have. Water cooled generator, or
Water.
it's a water cooled generator? Yeah, they're expensive. Yeah. So, you just want to understand all that. The road thing, I dislike that the township has to talk about Mills Road because it's a county-wide. Yes, the township residents drive on these roads, but we've got some major roads that we're a thoroughfare for a lot of people that go through this township. So I wish it were a county-wide thing. We should have a county-wide village. That would be.
I agree with that one.
Townships, we get together and press the issue. We should do a county-wide village. If we're gonna do anything, you gotta remember, it's not just for 10 years. After 10 years, the road's gonna need work.
It needs to be repaired.
It's an annual.
Yeah.
Now, maybe we could sell it 10 years, but we'll be right back at it, so let's look longer term. You know, it should be an annual thing. Maybe a 1 mil annually for getting all the way in the future. Road, we have money to pave. Because if you go to 2 mils, then people start going, wow, it's $1,200 a year. 1 mil every year, you can always adjust it if we have too much. So if we have to do it, I'd rather see a countywide village that all the townships support. Because we're paying for it somewhere, where's that money going?
Yeah, that's gonna be difficult because 2 of the largest townships just started 10-year millages, and I don't think you're gonna get the vote. And I do agree with that. I think that's, you know, our county officials lean on us to do a lot of stuff, and, you know, I've got my own issues with them, but,
Well, then we have to act as one, with all the townships. Longer term, it's probably a better deal.
yeah. All right, thanks, Don.
Those are my comments.
Yep. Anybody else? No? Alan?
Well, on the cell phone thing, it seems to me that it's more to protect our personal information. Townships is going to be on one device or the other. So I think it's a good thing for that. Because, I mean, my cell phone would bore you to death. But you don't want that confiscated. And so I think that's probably a good idea, and opt-in, opt-out is good because you can decide information out there or not. But I agree that a little more detail would be good, voting on something like that, to at least understand what the cost may be. Kind of where I'm at.
Anybody else?
I agree that we need a generator here. I just want you to look at the Generacs and the Cummings both and see what the differences are. Cummings is a little bit more money. You're only going to spend it one time, you might as well get the best one that you can.
I actually have specs on them.
Panel definitely needs to be replaced. I don't know how it ever, just from what I've heard about it.
A lot of prayers.
Ever got approved to start with. Even when this building was built.
Yeah.
You gotta have a main disconnect someplace, not just pulling meter. And if you wanna put off.
There's not even a main breaker disconnect.
I mean, disconnect of some sort.
There's not an outside disconnect, there's not an inside main breaker.
The meter.
Yeah, it's called total meter.
disconnect. Shoot the line down.
Anyone else? Mary, did you have something?
About the generator, you definitely should have a backup generator. A couple things. The 25K, obviously, if you were to have that, you'd have to have load shed technology like this gentleman has at his house. You'd have to identify which circuits you would want to have that under. Then that means that Mr. Murphy should also have the ability to identify how much amperage you could minimize and use that kind of technology. That way you'd have two comparison bids. If you're going to have one company with a 25K and a 45K bid, why they ended up doing two instead of one like the other companies, but they should both have an equal say in that. Prevailing wage, as far as I know, most all government facilities are subject to the possibility of having to pay prevailing wage. So if they request prevailing wage rate, then it must be paid. It is law, so it might be something.
State law.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
that's good to know.
And basically, there's classifications for your electricians and stuff, and they have to be paid at that wage minimally. So that's another thing that you have to talk to your installer about. It's definitely good to have it both done at the same time, because it would only cost you more to have it done separately anyways. And yeah, the whole J-box thing, that's the best way to go. Anyways, that's all I'm saying.
Thanks. All right, any other comments?
Gary has something.
I just wanted to say, because you were talking about the vacation, that the employees, I wanted to clarify that the employees did not ask for this.
Oh, right.
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 No, I didn't say the employees asked for it.
Well, I know,
That has
but I
nothing
was
to do.
just trying to say that,
No,
I mean,
no,
because
no, no.
I
That has nothing to
specifically
do
went
with
to
it.
them and said, I did not
Right.
want it, I did not want to go back 10 years.
Right.
So it was nothing that the employees
No.
wanted, so I didn't want anyone to
Nothing
think
to
that
do with you,
any
dear.
of us.
Nothing to do with
No.
the employees or you or
Okay.
anybody in particular.
You know, I
It is
think
just
the
something
confusion lies
that,
in, you gotta have a starting date.
Right.
They're not going back.
And we agreed, and we all said that.
You just gotta start, what's your time, what's your tenure, what's your years of service? That's all you're looking at as a start.
Right.
that's it. But you can't go back to pick up, let's say, year one, so, I'm sorry, no. Yeah, I certainly
like I
hope
told
that
Marcy, I
you
said, I
did
didn't want to
not.
come into this board meeting with my name on here with 10 years, and I was uncomfortable, I told them both
Right.
last week,
don't wanna
and
do
I
that.
did not want this.
Please don't
So,
think
I
it
just-
had nothing to
okay.
do with you. It
I
is
think it's
simply-
been clarified.
All right, it's been resolved. All right, any other public comments?
I got,
Just a quick one. I'm glad to see a lot of people here today.
Yeah. Finally. It's kind of nice.
one thing.
This is a lot.
That's a lot of people.
And everybody commented too.
Yep, thank
So,
you.
good.
Go ahead.
I just have one question, not to be opening up another can of worms here, but is there a living document of this building?
A what? A living document?
No.
A set of plans
An as-built,
that is,
There is
now,
an
hold on,
as-built,
hold
I
on. This
believe.
is what the reason I asked that question, which would clear the whole situation, what you're talking about, scope of work. And typical with commercial projects, we would have a living document of this building. And at that point in time, wherever it's at, whatever engineer has got this document that's got the ability to edit it and the records of it, we could say, look, we're looking for a generator over here to supply this, we need our service done. They will write up a scope of work, and we will get an apples-to-apples bids, no questions like what's here. It may take some money to make that happen,
Right.
but that's how you make the living document work and grow with the building. It will be done properly through years and years and years of service. And it will, the building, now, whether we have a 10-year plan, 20-year plan, fill in the blank, I know we talked about that some time ago. That could be something to be talked about in the future, because it would take an initial cost of money. If there's no living document going with this building right now, it would take a substantial amount to make that happen. But it would eliminate all these issues or questions, any of it. And it's quick, simple, to the point whenever we shoot something out to bids. They will write it up for a small fee, and then we shoot it out to our contractors, and they give us feedback. just that. I don't know if that's something to talk about in the future, but.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any working documents. We have
Maybe.
the original plans. Well, you can tell by the panels, like, the way things are jumped, the way it's spaghetti, it was, I have a friend that can hook this up. My
Right.
friend, and I think it was all done in good intent to save money for the taxpayer, or
But that's not,
spend money elsewhere, but in the process, it's created quite a conundrum.
well, the responsibility
Is to fix it.
is to make that happen, and believe it or not, what better way to pass off to another board than an actual living? Like, whenever these changes are made, like, say we award this contract to somebody and it's under the scope of work of that engineer, it's recorded. They know exactly where this is now changed, and if somebody ever has a problem, an electrician comes in here, wants to look at what's happening with these circuits over here, the left bus bar is not doing something's, fill in the blank, whatever it is. They can go right there, pinpoint the problem without doing a whole lot of demolition or get a lot of questions answered in the future and save a lot of money in the future. It's a cost now. As a commercial structure, a building, yes, it's a small building. It seems like something not so,
So we would put
Whatever,
something
but-
like that out for bid is what?
no. Again, I don't want to cause a whole nother, I know we're done and this is a long meeting for this township board, but, with that being said, if we found an engineer to as-built drawing of this building, take all the documents we have of record, then they come through, they'll take a plumbing engineer, or mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, with the structural engineer, and they will go through and diagnose everything they can possibly see, and then every time we have a project like this come up, we contact them, we tell them what we want to do. They will come in here and look at that, oh, yep, we're going to relocate over here, and write a scope of work with spec'd out generator to whether it be a Cummins or a Generac, whatever it would be, and any contractor to bid on that has to bid that verbatim. And then you got an apples to apples.
Call me more, we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. Anyway.
All right. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Been motion and support to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? All right, well.
So might we have some of those documents somewhere?
I know there's prints of this building. The problem is it's not a living document.
You're moving
It's not
faster.
constantly edited
Yeah, so it might be
as we move
something.
along.
No, it's starting,
It's from 1967 and nothing's been.
One of the other organizations I belong to,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that were spent on getting bids this way or that way, and the next thing you know, that information doesn't really
So worth doing it. And you're probably just
go
feeling
on
better
to
and better and
the
better.
succeeding
That's
boards.
awesome.
I got rid of my
Okay.
brace.
And what
Yeah,
happens
'cause
is
last
then you
time we
get
did a
fighting
meeting, you had
later on
brace
down the
on.
road. It's,
Yeah.
oh, so-and-so did this, so-and-so did whatever. You have no continuity of
Well,
knowledge,
Right.
right?
nothing wrong with that. Yeah, you don't fall.